Hello, everyone, and welcome back to the Film Appreciation Podcast. I'm your host, Nick, and as always, I am joined by my very personable and charming co-hosts, Isaac and Marlon.
New words.
Yeah.
Boy.
How are those for nice adjectives?
Well, I am excited to be here today.
The 20th episode.
A very special occasion.
Indeed.
60 films will be covered by the end of this episode on our podcast.
60 films. That's more than we did on the original film club, right?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, we won't reveal the school.
50.
Yeah.
Can't reveal our school.
50 odd, wasn't it?
50 get stalked by our 90 fans.
Though we didn't actually watch most of them in that film club.
That is a good point.
But no, we have watched everything here, and it's been quite a journey. And unfortunately...
So one would hope.
Unfortunately, even though it's the 20th episode, it's very special. We don't really have that many special films to talk about today. It's actually going to be an episode filled of disappointment for the most part, I would say. As a general characterization.
Well, I mean, that's not a good thing to say because everyone's going to click off now.
No, they're not.
Now you can listen to us slander films.
Oh, true. That's a lot more fun, I guess.
I'll tell you this, and Toby, he might be listening. He's a mate from class, and he was like, "Oh, when are you going to post a new episode of the podcast?" And I was like, "Oh yeah, we're actually recording one tonight." And I said, "It's not going to be very good though because we didn't really like the films." And he goes, "Oh, bro, that's just going to be better. You're just going to start slagging shit off." And I was like, "Fuck yeah."
Well, if you want us to hear us slagging shit off, you should also watch last episode, which featured I Saw the TV Glow.
Yes.
And go back further, and you've got Wonka and Kung Fu Panda 2 and The Flash and Empire.
What's our best rant?
What's that best rant?
Has to be
enjoyable.
Wonka. I feel like we slandered the fuck
Wonka
out
was
of
good
Wonka.
fun. I don't even remember what we really said.
I feel like there was one where Bowie was really impassioned.
We
and
were
I can't remember
tiptoeing
what it
around.
was.
I Saw the TV Glow a bit.
I don't even know. I have no idea what... I feel like I'm impassioned frequently.
To be fair, the most impassioned episode, and I still think my favorite episode is when we reviewed June. Because that conversation went on for an hour and 20 minutes. It was like the length of a podcast.
And
just
it didn't
for one
stop
movie.
naturally. We stopped it.
Yeah, we were like, fuck, we're going on for so long.
But no, we're getting to the point, episode 20 now, where I have a FAPS ranked list on Letterboxd, and I'm struggling. We've got that much now. I'm struggling to order things. So, without further ado, should we get started on the first?
Yes.
It won't be hard to rank some of these, though.
The 58th.
The 58th movie.
Film.
And what a great addition. Joker, I'm not going to even... Folie Deux?
Yeah, Folie Jew, I think, is the way you
I
say
don't know how French people
Hell
speak.
yeah, we're going to France.
We are.
Yeah, we are.
We are too.
Faps in
That's a little spoiler.
Little spoiler. Yeah, there's going to be Faps on tour soon,
But yes,
guys.
Joker 2, a musical. It follows Arthur Fleck, of course, as he's in prison, and he's now going to be on trial. And throughout this, he meets Harley Quinn, and they have some sort of madness for two, hence the title, which is French for madness for two.
Well, they claim they have madness for two.
Well, that's the idea, but we'll get into why that is kind of dumb. Anyway, and the idea of the movie basically is Joker's on trial. Does he deserve to die? Is he insane? Is he even Joker, or is he just Arthur Fleck playing a character? Blah, 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 blah. Thoughts?
So, well, the first thing I want to say is what's happened, like the public response to this movie has been fucking really funny.
It has been piled on.
Like a Mount Everest of shit. And it's crazy because it's earned, I think in America on its third weekend, it earned like $2 million at the box office, which is so fucking cooked. And I think overall, like worldwide, it's earned $100 million against a $200 million production budget.
Oh, you're kidding.
It needed to make, just to break even, like just to make its money back, $450 million. And it's on $100 million. It's probably going to end around the $190 million.
The first one made $2 billion, or was it just $1 billion?
It was just $1 billion, but it only had a $60 million production budget.
Yeah, so it made a lot.
Well, they're in
Like,
the green still then.
I think
Overall,
I think they made a $500 million profit off that movie after all the other crap.
Todd Phillips did not cook.
Well, the thing is, this whole movie exists for the sole reason that the first one did well.
Yeah.
And Todd Phillips, now kind of, I guess, probably forced to make this movie, had an opportunity to be like, all right, I made the first Joker, and a lot of people watched that and were like, yeah, let's be incels, it's awesome. And that's, of course, I seriously doubt what he wanted to do with that movie. And so I think this movie is like a total like, yeah, guys, Joker is bad, he is not good.
So now let's
Don't be Joker.
Let's figure out why he's bad and what he's done.
And this movie is...
And then it sort of plays into some sort of mental health, and then like the exacerbation of that in the criminal system.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
That's part of the thing, is like how these prison systems and
It's sort of predatory.
yeah, and only make things worse.
Yeah.
But it fails at that.
Liberal government.
Oh, let's not get into Queensland politics, right?
So
No, David, you're lying.
So, one thing that is interesting about the movie, and this was a fan theory or like a sort of a way of viewing the film, and I think it's the only way that you could view it in any sort of positive way, which is that there was that whole thing about it. He made it as a reaction to the first movie, which I think is true, but I don't think I necessarily agree that it was made to sort of prove that Joker is a bad person and you shouldn't idolize him in some way. Like, obviously, he's not presented as perhaps cool as he was presented in the first movie, where he's walking around dancing and smoking and all this sort of shit. But the thing that it was saying was that it's actually just sort of a response to how audiences perceive the Joker film, in the sense of they went to watch it for Joker, even though the whole of the first movie was actually a story about this guy Arthur, and it's a bad thing for him to become Joker. But we as an audience kind of skip over any sort of empathy and interest for that humanistic character, and we just want to see this Joker facade, almost like this extra bit.
Well, it's the same as the people within the universe as well.
Yeah, and so that's what, if you start looking at the characters in the film, like Harley Quinn, she actually only loves the idea of the Joker. She doesn't love Arthur Fleck, you know? And that's, to me, actually makes quite a lot of sense when you start to view the movie that way. Now, literally, that's not what's literally happening in the film. You know,
No.
That's just a way to view the film, which doesn't, when I'm saying that, because it doesn't give it a pass. Because the movie is absolute garbage.
The movie fails in all the ways it shouldn't. It doesn't commit to being a musical. It's like
Yeah, it's half
it's
in
scared
between
of
a
it.
drama and a musical.
It's so scared of being a musical.
It pulls its musical acts early.
Yeah.
And then inserts them in places where they feel completely out of place.
It's emotionally dry. Like, it doesn't have any impactful moments, I don't think.
It's fucking boring.
That was gonna be my next point. It's just so boring.
It's so
I don't think a single interesting thing happens.
And they're either just in jail, he's just in prison, or he's in the courtroom. And like, by coincidence, pretty sure it was September, Criterion Channel did a bunch of courtroom drama movies. And I was like, fuck yeah. And I was getting into these and like actual good courtroom dramas. And you start to sort of realize what makes a good one. And then I went to see Joker and I was like, Todd Phillips clearly has never like sat in a courtroom. This cunt doesn't understand how any of this shit works, because it was so ridiculous and goofy and just poorly written.
And that was something as well I noticed, is the details for characters, for plot, were so derivative. They were just like picked out of like the most basic sort of how to make a movie thing. Like, okay, how do I make a mentally ill character interesting? He's got split personality disorder. And then they don't even fully do the research on what that's actually like and what it is. And they just say, oh, he's got two personalities, it's whatever.
Yeah.
And it's not interesting. It's just this totally fucking stupid portrayal of it, which we've had so many of. And they didn't need to do that. They could have just said, and it would actually make more sense for his character, just say, oh, he has schizophrenia. You know, he has delusions.
Yeah,
because
he has
schizophrenics have delusions. You make weird connections.
Yeah.
You're paranoid. That fits the character.
Did you just say we make?
I don't know.
But
Maybe not.
but when you watch it,
voices,
but that whole split personality thing it's such evidence that this was just made to make money, because there's no hint of that in the first movie.
Yeah.
He's already a fucking freak,
but
he becomes emboldened and just puts a bit of makeup on.
To be fair, I do think
that's it.
That is kind of the point that the movie's trying to make, is that his lawyer just kind of makes up, this is what you have and this is how we're going to defend you.
To sort of beat the justice system.
And then the whole thing is, the Joker isn't real. I'm just Arthur Fleck, and it's just not interesting at the end of the day. I just don't care about it.
And then you go beyond that, and sort of it seems as though Todd Phillips has put far too much emphasis on making the film look pretty.
I didn't even.
Which
think
then
it
he's
looked- I didn't
failed.
even
He's
think it
failed at
looked
as well.
pretty.
So grey and
but you watch,
bleak.
which is intentional.
Yeah, but it's not grey and bleak in an interesting way.
I know, but you watch the trailer and you see the shot of the umbrellas from above and opening
Yeah.
in different colors, and you go, "Oh, this looks
But that
pretty."
was just taken from Cherbourg.
Yeah.
It's not even an original idea.
And then you were talking
Which
to
is
me,
Todd Phillips par excellence.
Yeah,
Yeah.
literally.
Steal other
and,
ideas.
and you were
and
talking
benefit.
to me a couple months before Joker, saying, "Bro, this shit looks good.
Yeah.
This shit looks good. I'm so excited."
And I
Because
was,
in the
yeah.
trailer, it does look good.
trailer's great,
But
to be
then,
fair.
but then the majority of the film I found looks like a television series, like a mid-budget television series.
Well, one thing that's super interesting is that you don't even need to watch many musicals, and we can just bring up the film school fucking staple 101, which is La La Land. But you watch that, that's set in the real world, and the musical numbers are done so wonderfully, you know, with good colors, but it's actually the choreography and shit that makes that special. I mean, for that film, they did all like one take sort of stuff, but in other musicals, it's all very highly choreographed and really interesting camera movement and all this bollocks. In Joker, like I'm sure you've seen it circling around, there's the Build a Mountain
Yeah.
song, and that's all over Instagram
We're gonna
now, 'cause
build a mountain.
they released
What the fuck
that
does that
clip.
mean?
They released that clip as a promo, and you see Joker tap dancing, but it's shot so boringly. There's no sweeping. It's just he's dancing. We'll cut to the back, and there's going to be a spotlight on him. But actually, it's just sort of not even silhouetted. It's just poorly lit garbage, and you're sort of looking at it.
Is that
like
when they're
this.
singing "To Love Somebody"?
No, it's when she's playing the piano, going, "We're gonna build a,
Oh yeah, that
build
was
me a
fucking
mountain."
Yeah, when he's leaning on it with the cigarette. And
Yeah, doing that shit.
fucking so annoying, dude. The guy has a cigarette in his mouth the whole film, and he gets given one like twice.
Although what's funny is that
infinite cigarette
I
glitch.
hadn't seen Joker other than the time I saw it in the cinema, and so I rewatched it to get ready for this. And there is actually several like continuity mistakes with the fact that he's smoking. Like there's the famous him dancing down the stairs, which
Yeah.
is a great scene. But he's dancing and he literally smoking, and he tossed the cig, and then within a second they did a close up of him going like that with the cig in his mouth, and I was like, "Come on,
Like
bro."
a new cig in his mouth.
No,
or
but it
just the
was
smoke?
burnt. It was no. He had a different cig in his mouth, but it was burnt down. Like it wasn't like he's done some sort of jump cut, and he must have just put a new cig in his mouth. It's
Yeah.
like he's already smoked a lot of it, so it looked fucking ridiculous.
Actually, you did just remind me by saying the Joker stairs scene. Maybe further evidence that this movie is about sort of, re-representing the first movie to audiences is the fact that it has various references to, I watched your movie. She always says that, I watched your movie, it was good, and then someone else says it was crap. And
Oh, the TV
That-
show.
yeah, oh, it was a show.
Animated TV show.
no, was that the animated thing at the start? I thought it was just like a.
No, that was just another thing.
No, but
wasn't
that's
it?
the
That was just
actual
like his
TV
imagination.
show. No, that's the actual TV show.
Are you sure?
No.
I thought they made like an actual
think
like
so.
legitimate thing.
I think they said they made an actual movie based about him.
Yeah.
I thought that cartoon at the start.
But then it cuts back to the cartoon.
The cartoon at the start.
was his like.
No, but
thought
what
that was
it what
his
it was
imagination.
based. That whole cartoon was essentially a. What would you say? A forward to the whole film, which is
Well, yeah,
essentially
the
its whole
shadow
his
self.
shadow shelf and his actual thing where
yeah.
the Joker gets ripped off him and he's this naked Arthur Fleck in the cartoon,
Yeah.
and that's what the whole Folie Dieu actually
Yeah.
thing is that people thought it was going to be Joker and Harley being mad together, which it should have been,
Yeah.
but instead it's actually exploring this dumb split personality crap that Arthur Fleck has.
so
Yeah.
was the movie like some sort of
It was a-
martyred movie?
It was just another movie that was made, but they didn't show it in the film.
And
Gotcha.
that, what I wanted to say was that plus the reference to Joker stairs is part of the reason I think there's actually evidence within the film that it is about the first film, if you know what I mean. It's not
Yeah,
just
that's-
like people go, It's like, it seems to me pretty clear that he was like, yeah, guys, turns out you guys don't know how to actually understand the first Joker film. I'm so smart, you couldn't get the subtleties. Now listen to this.
No, I actually think he had no intentions behind the movie. He just made it kind of,
Yeah, maybe it just
and then
came out
people, there were fucking
subconsciously.
retarded incels walking around and shit, and it was,
Oh, you mean the first one, yeah.
oh, I've now endorsed incels. Maybe I should take that back.
Well, I think all you need to know about this film is that the spoiler at the very end, he gets stabbed to death,
Oh, that was so dumb.
and then the guy that stabs him cuts fucking lines in his mouth, continuing the Joker.
yeah.
Which I just thought was the biggest
Which is like-
middle finger
Yeah, it's such a cop
ending.
out.
It was like, oh, fuck off. And that, the main thing is that the movie starts and ends in the same point. there's no progression in the movie. The movie basically goes like a normal movie. You think Star Wars is some bullshit. A to B. Luke is on fucking Sand Planet and goes and blows up the Death Star. Imagine if he went and just before he blew up the Death Star, like they just went on the ship and Obi-Wan got killed, and then Luke just went, oh, fuck it, I'll just go back to Tatooine. And he just ended on the Sand Planet. It would be so fucking stupid.
Drops dead.
But and then all of a sudden a Jawa just knifes him and he dies. It would be like, what the fuck?
Or if it's a movie that... or if it is a movie that starts and ends in the same place, there's like an actual journey that's happened.
Yeah. But the character has to
change.
Has to change. And at the start of the movie, he was already not believing that he was the Joker. He was sort of sitting around going, I'm Arthur and I'm not really talking.
The only difference is, I guess, he was on drugs at the start and he wasn't at the end. But
yeah, he stops taking his pill.
Yeah. Well, gives a fuck.
Anyway.
But anyway, it was just... But it literally was, oh, Arthur's in jail. Okay. And then the movie ends, oh, he's actually just back in prison. Like where he started. He's just back in jail.
Oh, where he got stabbed.
And then he gets stabbed.
No,
and I just went...
Fleck, bro.
And when he got stabbed, my face was...
I
just didn't give a fuck.
I was like... I don't know if you saw me go on my phone a couple times.
No, I didn't.
Oh, okay.
I have less
I was
of a
texting my
problem
fucking
with
sister. That's how boring this movie was.
Well, no, but he was laughing.
So dumb.
I have less of a problem with the fact he gets stabbed, but more so the guy that stabs him then
No, I agree.
continues the Joker.
Yeah,
I was
it's
going
cringe,
into it.
right?
The main thing is I was going into it thinking he was
Keeps it-
probably going to die because I knew Joaquin would never do a third one. Because Joaquin hates sequels. And so the fact that he already did this one, I thought was like, really?
Well, you said after the fact that you just thought he had some sort of power in the script writing process.
Oh, yeah, he does that with all of his movies,
Yeah.
where he just changes it on the
Yeah.
fly.
Well, so this is the thing. They marketed it saying that Joaquin Phoenix apparently came up with the idea of this movie in a dream. And then Todd Phillip went off and fucking wrote it, which is such garbage. Joaquin had no interest in doing another one. But then he was offered $20 million to come back, and so was Todd Phillips. They both got paid $20 million to do this. And you can see at the Venice Film Festival, when the movie ends, some guy like recorded Joaquin standing up during the applause, and Joaquin turned to Lady Gaga and goes, "It's horrible. It's fucking terrible." And she's like, "Don't say that, Joaquin." He goes, "It is."
Yeah, she's
So bad.
not great in this either, is she?
I don't think she's given much to work with.
No.
That's what I think. I actually think she's a really good actress. I think people sleep on Lady Gaga, and it's unfortunate because everyone looks at her going, "She's Lady Gaga, she's a singer," but then she keeps choosing these projects that are about like singing, which I think she needs to avoid. Like she does Star Is Born, she does Joker, and everyone's going to be looking at Lady Gaga. Lady Gaga's in this movie.
Well, she did House of Gucci, and she was
I know.
very like stock sort of.
Well, she was good in that, but the problem was that movie was just a bit of a mixed bag,
Yeah.
and it was not marketed right. But now, like, I feel sorry for her because her name's just like so tainted because of this movie. Because no one knew it was a musical. That was like one of the big problems is they didn't properly market it, saying this is a fucking musical. You gotta be ready, because that's the main reason why people are pissed off. You know,
Really?
that's the main thing. Yeah, and I knew that it was a musical because they put it in the tabloids, but they just didn't put it in the trailers. And I guess the average cunt doesn't, read stuff. So it's like, oh my God, they're singing? What the fuck?
Well, because she does a pretty good job in A Star Is Born.
I haven't seen that.
I was like 14 when I watched it, I think. Whenever it came out, I watched it and I cried. Because I was like a young guy seeing one of my first emotional movies where a guy kills himself.
Nice.
Sorry.
Thanks. Nice.
Not that you were...
No, I wasn't planning on watching it.
But it was like, it's a pretty hard-hitting film. And I think that's her full like acting debut of sorts. And she does a good job. But like this, they go down to the cellar and fuck.
Yeah.
Like how?
Oh, that was so fucking funny though.
And it was like just the most uncomfortable.
But they're just trying to.
Well.
They're just trying to. I don't know.
Here's a quote from Mad Men that perfectly encapsulates Todd Phillips. This is what happens when you have the artistic temperament, but you're not an artist.
Who said that? Was that Draper?
Megan's mum.
Oh, that's right. Yeah. Okay. Yeah.
But
It's kind of accurate though. It does hit, bro.
I think
he wants to make these artistic movies, but he's not an artist.
What did he make before Joker?
He made like what was it? Is it Grown Ups or he made the other ones?
Grown Ups.
But I'll tell you another.
The Hangover. The Hangover.
Yeah,
Yeah,
okay.
those fucking movies.
I'll tell you
they're
another
funny,
thing.
but they're not like.
But they're cheap funny as
Yeah.
well. They're not like.
They're not artistic movies.
Well, the first Hangover is a classic.
Yeah.
You can't knock it. I haven't seen the other two, to be fair. But anyway, the point is that another thing about the Joker movies that really fucked me off is the fact that they're not really about the Joker like we know him from the comics. And yet, if they didn't have the Joker branding, no one would watch it.
Exactly.
And that's what shits me, is they basically try and treat it like it's this, ooh, blah, blah. But
This
actually,
interesting portrayal of Joker, but it's not him at all.
it's not the Joker. Like, this isn't even a Joker movie. They're just calling it Joker to make money. Like, especially this one, this Folie Jew. I mean, she is the least Harley Quinn-esque.
Oh, right.
You know?
They call her Lee for most of the
Yeah.
movie in the first place.
And I'm not against it. And when I found out it was a musical, I actually thought that was going to be a really cool idea. And I like musicals, but as Marlon mentioned, it doesn't commit to being a musical. Most of it doesn't even have background tracks. They're just singing a cappella, and neither of those people can sing. Well, Lady Gaga can sing.
Todd Phillips directed
But-
Borat.
We didn't.
The second one?
That's what it says.
Bullshit, he did.
Oh, Larry Charles. He produced it. My bad.
There you go.
Very nice.
So
you mash.
imagine
Yeah.
that would have actually been an artistic.
Imagine the Joker, but it's Borat. Borat's on trial.
King at the castle. King at the castle.
That would have been so much
defending
better.
He's defending himself. Oh, how stupid is it when he defends himself and he's just doing like silly voices and stuff? It wasn't funny. It didn't hit at all.
And I was reading about it because this thing's such a colossal disaster. And I was reading about it, and apparently every day Joaquin would get his lines that he was supposed to be doing for that day, set them on fire, and he would make shit up, and Todd just let him. And so, like, during these courtroom scenes where Joaquin, like, all that's improv. He's just trying to go with it. And Todd was saying in the editing, they just had to pick whatever take made, like, the most logical sense because he was doing all this weird shit.
I just don't understand how you can accept that. Like, that's just bad directing.
Yeah, but that's the problem is
bad.
Joaquin is a good actor, but directors are just giving him too much
Which is
power.
stupid.
It's the same thing that happened
so
with
dumb.
Napoleon.
Yeah.
Joaquin just did whatever he wanted with Napoleon. He made it goofy as fuck.
Which he totally changed the movie.
Yeah, because
Totally
if he took it seriously, it could have been good. Like, he could have actually portrayed Napoleon well because he kind of...
And a lot of people find Napoleon really interesting, and
Which he is. They completely butchered his
And so
story.
to make him a joke,
Yeah.
it's like, why?
I know. Anyway.
Yeah.
I thought Napoleon had a fair bit more merit.
Oh no, Napoleon's
a million times
yeah.
better because it's actually
still a solid movie.
coherent and
Yeah.
it's this movie was just nothing. Like, there's no acts, there's no
It's
progression.
like putting a piece of paper on a wall, giving a chimp a pen, and letting it just scribble.
It just had. It was so boring.
ChatGPT.
It was so boring.
ChatGPT script.
I think
my
there
God, it
are,
was so
how many
boring.
ChatGPT scripts do you think are low key like in the?
Well, that's
in the
banned.
industry.
That's illegal now.
Yeah, but
because
it's also
saying-
illegal to use ChatGPT for like your uni assignments. But you see like a million people
No
doing it.
one does that. What are you
I
talking
searched
about?
up ChatGPT
Dude.
Joker and it comes up with. I asked ChatGPT to write Joker 3 because I hated Joker 2.
Script is just the new guy who got stabbed. He's actually the Joker, and
That was actually Arthur's imagination.
Yeah,
Arthur's still
Arthur's still
alive,
alive.
and he
It was all a
kills
dream.
He kills the prison guard and gets out of jail and goes on this fucking rampage.
it was all a dream. He wakes up back on the TV show, and
He's just shot De Niro. He's like, oh yeah, I'm the Joker, and then Batman just.
I mean, like, when the film starts and you get that animated TV show start, it's pretty cool.
And that's it.
That is a cool,
And this is what's so sad.
interesting choice.
I totally agree. I
was like, fuck yeah, we're in for it here.
And
then it just-
people, this is the sad thing, is that studios are going to learn the wrong lesson from this, which is that the one thing I can give Joker is I'm actually happy it took risks. You know, it had a weird cartoon at the start. It was a musical. It wasn't afraid to go against expectations of the audience, which I think is something that should be done because, especially like a Marvel movie, everything's so cookie cutter. It's so predictable. You don't even need to go see it to know what's going to happen type thing.
Yeah.
And the sad thing is because of dodgy marketing and just the fact that it's a bad movie, all the audience is going, bro, I never want to see a musical again. And they should never take risks again because, this thing is in the toilet. Imagine, this is true. So it had the worst box office drop in the second weekend for any comic book movie in history. It has the lowest cinema score for any comic book movie in history. It's fucking crazy. And the first movie won 2 Academy Awards and it made $1 billion. And this one's going to lose $250 million and will probably get like fucking Razzie nominations. It's sad.
Do you think Joaquin will get a Razzie?
No. Well, I thought he was actually very good in the movie. That's probably one of the few things I can say for it.
Yeah, but I feel like
he's Joaquin good. He's
Didn't Hayden
average
Christensen get
for Star Wars.
For Revenge of the Sith, I feel like even though he did pretty good in Revenge of the Sith, I feel like I think they still gave it to him.
They just sort of pick someone to lurch onto.
Yeah.
Fucking idiot.
He could have got it for Attack of the Clones.
No,
Attack
he
of the
did.
Clones.
He got it for both.
But Revenge of the Sith,
back to back.
I think he got it for both.
That's
yeah.
impressive. Poor
that's... Well, first of all, I just want to say this. Attack of the Clones, Revenge of the Sith are way better than Joker, Folie of Jew. I mean,
point.
fucking hell. Anyway,
Yeah.
is there anything that we liked about it? Should we say that?
I liked 2 scenes.
Go.
I liked visually how it looked when they were on top of on the stage with the Hotel Gotham
Yes,
coloring in the background. I
agreed.
thought that looked coloring, blah blah blah. Whatever.
Yeah. Future guest.
It looked really nice, that particular scene. And I liked the To Love Somebody scene because I really liked that song. And I hadn't heard it in probably 6 or so months. I was like, hey, I like this song.
Actually, sorry, this is another thing I didn't like. It's just
Yeah.
such a small nitpick.
Yeah.
But you know how he chokes the guy out and he dies?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
He wouldn't have died.
No.
He wasn't holding on to the choke anywhere near long enough. They could have. He literally.
Wasn't he also doing it with a pillowcase or something?
Yeah, I can't remember what they
Oh,
did.
guys, Isaac
would've-
does jujitsu.
He would have just woken up.
If you didn't know,
He would have woken
knows
up
how
like
to choke.
He would have woken up like 2 seconds later. It's like the dumbest thing ever.
Isaac, have you been choked out?
I haven't been choked out, but been on like the verge, you know.
Yeah.
It's actually.
Did it get you going?
No, it didn't.
Oh.
It gets you like going like, where the hell am I doing? Like spinning around.
It's like lack of oxygen.
Yeah, it's not a nice feeling. Being nearly choked out. I imagine waking up from being choked out probably is pretty sweet.
Pretty nice. Yeah. It's
Yeah.
like, oh fuck, thank God.
Yeah.
Back. Not in heaven.
I'm not dead,
Or hell.
thank God.
Or
Anyway.
the deep abyss. Did you like anything?
I mean, not that I can
Not
really think of.
particularly.
Was there anything that you noticed I liked at all watching it?
No.
Did you
Yeah.
like anything, Nick? Aside from that scene I mentioned.
There were occasional nice moments I think in the prison between like very occasional sort of dialogue that was not like quite at least enjoyable to
Yeah.
listen
At
to.
the start, I had some hope for it at the start. I thought the cartoon thing, I wasn't obsessed with it, but I thought it was an interesting way to
I
start
like
the
that.
movie.
Yeah.
And then at the start, it was really nicely photographed. There was nice tracking of him walking through Arkham. And like his meeting with Harley Quinn, I thought was good. Like when she was sitting on the windowsill and they had that conversation, I thought that was...
After like the music lesson.
Yeah, exactly. And they had a brief conversation, and I actually thought that was like the way they had decent chemistry, because I didn't think they had much throughout the whole movie, but in that scene I thought there was something.
Only when they're shagging in the dark.
But then when Joaquin goes to that sort of lunchroom, and I think it was the first proper musical scene where he goes, "For once in my life" or something, and he was walking around in one shot through the lunch hall.
Where there's like a television.
I thought that was actually good, and that was the first committed musical scene. I thought, that's cool. I'm actually on board for this, because the tone was all good. But then it just went nowhere. There was no emotional change. Like, the Harley Quinn shit was cringe. The musical scenes from that point on were bad. Whoa.
We're locked in.
Sorry, that's just a little bang. Sorry,
I thought
guys.
Brendan Gleeson was
But his character made no sense.
Yeah.
He just kept changing from scene to scene.
of like, where is...
Do I like
Yeah.
Arthur? Am I a nice person? Am I a fucking...
Yeah.
I'm
he
gonna
like,
demean
didn't he
him.
like
He was
arse rape him at the end?
bro.
Yeah.
He arse raped him at the end, didn't he? That's
No.
what happened.
Did he
got,
really?
he got
Yeah.
sexually assaulted in the showers.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
And I was like, and
That
that's
was like halfway through.
I
That's
think
just
I
not a
stopped paying
perfect.
attention to that scene after he did a couple did the waterboarding thing or whatever.
Yeah.
Yeah, and then I stopped paying attention.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, again, this is supposed to be about the Joker, and yet he's getting arse raped in prison. Like, what the fuck is happening,
The
bro?
whole point is...
Like, what the
it's
fuck?
supposed to show like the injustices occurring in the criminal system.
I don't
the
believe
problem
them.
is
It's not real.
anything they try and show, they don't flesh out, they don't develop, they don't
Exactly.
commit to.
Like, I don't accept that whole... It's supposed to show the injustices
Well,
of the
because
criminal
they don't
system.
develop it.
That's the only scene where that's basically happening.
Project, bro.
Yeah.
That's the only scene where some sort of violence is happening. Like, he got slapped once by a guard, which would be fair enough.
Did you guys ever have in like grade 6? They made you like do an assignment to say bullying is bad.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
That's what this is like. You just have like the 6 kids going, "Oh, don't do that." No. That's this movie.
I didn't think
In
I
a whole
had that.
nutshell.
And then the courtroom blows up.
No, I mean the whole thing though. It's like, guys, Joker's not good. I swear.
Yeah. Oh, and like the courtroom blew up and the camera pans and Harvey Dent's face, and I was like, shut up.
No, I don't know if you heard me.
Just
I was
shut
like,
up.
Yeah. I was like, they couldn't help themselves.
Yeah, you did say
they
that.
could not help
but-
themselves.
That's the same as the Joker slit
But
face thing.
They
I have to
could
say
not
this,
help
but this is
themselves.
why I was never big on the first, because everyone's like, oh, it's this highbrow intellectual movie. No. Like, it's still... Alfred was in it.
Yeah.
Batman's parents got shot in it.
Yeah.
There was a scene with Bruce Wayne. I mean, there was this whole subplot of Joker thinking he was related to Thomas
True.
Wayne. All of this crap, like, they actually stuff it full with stupid
Yeah, it's
references.
supposed to be like standalone universe.
Actually, now that you mention it, Harvey Dent, I thought he was pretty good. I don't know if that was just me. I thought he
Like
did
in
it
the
like.
courtroom scenes.
I thought he was reasonably okay.
Yeah, because he's supposed to be
Well,
like
he
a
seemed like he was actually trying.
Well,
Yeah,
yeah.
he fully gave me like I could imagine him being a young Harvey Dent.
Well,
you
yeah,
know what I
he's
mean?
supposed to be like a straight cut, fucking
Yeah,
real
of course,
good at his
of course.
job sort of thing.
Like he's not interesting as a character.
Yeah.
There's not
Well,
given-
he had like no.
That's what I'm saying. He's not given
just
that.
there.
He's not given that opportunity. But
Yeah.
I was like, that's convincingly
Yeah.
Harvey Dent.
Yeah, but it's like, okay, so you're writing a story and it's chugging along, and then something big happens. There's a big moment. What can I do to immediately like propel the audience into more engagement? Is by showing them something that they recognize.
Oh my god,
right?
it's Two-Face.
So it's way too scared to do anything unique beyond the surface.
Yeah.
Which it does a lot. It does a lot of unique shit beyond the surface. By unique, I mean trying to be.
Oh, right.
Sorry.
Yeah, like there was some interesting concepts and intentions behind it, but the execution was just
I
terrible.
think Rami Malek would be a better Joker.
It's like that Trump.
has the
It's like
look.
the Trump.
So Joaquin Phoenix does too.
The Trump clip where he goes, "I had concepts of a plan." It's like there were concepts of a movie.
Such a great
Dude,
line.
when the
Did
courtroom
you have a
blows
plan?
up,
I had concepts.
when the courtroom
I have
blows up,
concepts of a plan.
and he's
So what does
just,
that mean?
and he's just running on the streets of Gotham. It's literally Beau is Afraid.
Oh yeah, it was straight up a Beau was Afraid
It's Beau is
scene.
Afraid.
Dude, Todd Phillips is so unoriginal. He's literally stealing Joaquin Phoenix movies. It's crazy.
ripping off his own actor. Like,
Oh
that's
my
crazy.
god. Anyway, I don't want to talk about this anymore.
Yeah, all right, cool. Ratings, Nick, you go first.
I give it 3. I think 3. 3 out of 10.
Out of 5, geez, that's high.
Out of 10, 3 you think's
3 out
high?
of 10.
No, 3 out of 10, yeah.
Yeah, I think a 3 is fair.
Yeah.
3. Double it, and what do you get?
Stop
I'm
it, dude.
kidding.
You're scaring me. You're scaring me,
Yeah,
Marlon.
3 as well. I was thinking, like, initially, when I got out of the cinema at 2. But I don't know why. Just it was bad, right?
Well,
I think
the whole toilet ordeal with the
It's
kids
one of those-
going,
Oh,
this
yeah.
is the...
It's another one of those movies. I don't forget which one we did on this podcast, but the more it was Maxine when we did
Yeah,
recent
you got
Maxine.
real pissed
the
off.
more I thought about Maxine, the more I didn't like it. And this is the same with Joker. As soon as I walked out of the theater, I was like, and the more I thought about it, I was like, ugh.
Well, generally, I think when I don't like a movie, I'm too kind to it still. Mm-hmm. Just because, like, I mean, when I think of a half-star film, I think of,
I saw the TV clip.
yeah, and Avatar The Last Airbender.
Yeah.
And shit like that. And, like, this has more merit to it than that, but not much.
Yeah.
So this is, like, similar to The Flash kind of vibe for me. Terrible.
Yeah.
Really bad.
Did you give The Flash a 3?
Yeah.
Yeah, right.
I fucking hated that shit.
I would rather watch The Flash than,
So would I,
than
but
Joker.
I fucking hated The Flash too.
Yeah. No, I wasn't. Yeah, it
Oh,
wasn't a good.
slow-mo Ezra Miller falling with
I'd
baby
rather
in the...
sit in a sensory deprivation tank.
Oh.
Oh, foreshadowing. Aha.
Why is there a bug today?
Anyway,
don't know.
yeah, he just...
I've been-
The bug was dead, I just killed it.
Good. Bro, this whole time you've been seeing me sort of go like this in the video because I've been trying to swat this bug.
I've been watching the bug like just float around.
and
while next
I
to
keep
him.
flicking the top of my laptop.
Flicked it, it fell onto my laptop, and now it's dead.
Nice.
Nice.
Bug killer.
Marlon, the...
Speaking of dead, let's talk about the box office of the next movie. Oh. Yeah, we did good to move on.
Yep.
Nice. So the next movie we're going to talk about is actually something I'm really excited to talk about because conversations around this movie are actually really interesting. Megalopolis, directed by Francis Ford Coppola, a man of proven talent. He has talent. Okay, he's a
He
good.
sure does.
He's a good filmmaker.
Should we rattle off some of his...
You can in a second.
Okay.
But first of all, this is his thing that he's wanted to make for like 40 years. It's made fuck all money at the box office. He's probably going to be like incarcerated because he can't pay back his father's debts.
sold a $120 million vineyard.
Yep.
To fund it. Self-funded.
Yep.
Not picked up by a production
Has he got
company.
any other assets? Or is he cooked
His
now?
name.
They're about to be gone because he's made no money. Anyway, Megalopolis. This is what it's about. I'm gonna see how I do.
Good luck here.
So, you've got this city, which is basically New York, but it's called New Rome. It's set in the future. And you've got this guy, played by Adam Driver, called Caesar Catalina, and he's this genius inventor, and he invented something called Megalon, which is this sort of substance technology thing, which is enabling him to stop time, reverse time in short
I don't even know
brackets
if the
kind of
Megalon
thing.
is what allows him to do that.
I think it is.
Is it even? I don't think it's explicitly
Yeah,
explained.
it's not.
Anyway, whatever.
Doesn't
Gives a
matter.
shit. But this Megalon thing...
Francis Ford Coppola didn't.
This Megalon thing essentially has allowed... He's a genius because he invented this, whatever. This Megalon substance has essentially enabled him to start to build his dream future city, which he envisions called Megalopolis in this place of New Rome.
Crazy architect.
That's right. And he's this Nobel Prize winner and all this crap. He's vehemently opposed by the mayor, Cicero, I think was his name, Cicero.
Played by...
Giancarlo Esposito, the chicken man. And basically the mayor's like, nah, this Megalopolis thing's a stupid idea. We got to stick with the old ways of the city. There's a bunch of other characters, including Shia LaBeouf, who's an absolute gift from God. He was so utterly fantastic in such a terrible way in this movie. There's a bunch of other people. He's got like a daughter that Adam Driver fucks, and all this different stuff's happening. Yeah. Is that a decent summary? Have I missed anything?
The other important fact is there's the rich uncle, can't remember his name,
Oh, who owns the bank?
who owns the bank.
Yeah.
And that's a big plot in the movie because his
Yep.
son, played by Shia LaBeouf, and Aubrey Plaza's character, who's a reporter, who married the rich banker dude.
After she breaks up with
Adam Driver.
Yeah.
Caesar.
Plans to take over his shit.
Bank.
And so there's an important connection to Rome because Francis Ford Coppola wants to compare what's happening in America
Yeah.
to what happened in Rome.
The fall of America to the fall of Rome.
And so what is happening as well is there's a lot of allusions to other political things. For example, Shia LaBeouf's character is just a populist, and so they decide we're just going to make this very explicit and use Nazi imagery everywhere.
Yeah, they have like a Babylon-esque montage
Yes.
And
of
that's...
terrible political figures. at
And
the
that's... there's a lot of stuff going on, but essentially when you view the movie as well, it's a modernized futuristic city, but everyone's walking around dressed like Romans. It's basically like they've retaken the culture of ancient Rome in modern day New York City, and that's how they're conducting their lives in New Rome. Anyway, what did we think of it?
I don't know.
I didn't like it. I'm a massive Coppola fan. Like Apocalypse Now is my favorite film, and I shouldn't have gone into it expecting a film anywhere near as good as either of his first three major films.
Yeah.
In the two first Godfathers and Apocalypse Now.
Yeah.
But I think I poorly timed it to when at the end of the film the tribute for Eleanor came up.
Yeah.
And what did I say?
It was a steaming pile of shit.
Yeah.
And he stood up, Marlon stood up, said that right when, his dead wife,
Like
her
Francis
name came
Ford
up on the
Coppola was
screen.
like, to Eleanor.
To Eleanor.
Who had died.
That was one big pile of shit.
Yeah, steaming pile of shit. And look, Francis has come out and said, the main purpose of this film was to advance cinema forward and spark a conversation.
Which is literally all the movie says. It's like
Yeah.
a utopia is when people talk to each other. Something like that. I can't
And
remember
he
the exact line.
sparked a conversation, but he could have, he's just made some sort of... It's a self-indulgent film.
The problem is that he wanted to inspire a conversation not about the film, but about the world and about progress and ideas and free
But also
thinking.
the art of film.
But the conversation, what it's inspired, is just: is it shit?
Yeah.
Is the movie shit? Can we come to some sort of general
I
consensus?
think the other thing as well is I don't think Francis Ford Coppola has anything that interesting to say about the state of the world.
Well,
He just from this movie alone, all I can take from it is he goes, guys, what's happening isn't very good. We have, populists, blah blah blah. What we should do, guys, is just focus on building a better future.
I don't think
Duh.
I don't think he even has a message. I think the film is basically asking for us to talk. That's what.
Yeah,
it's
but that is the message.
But
though.
it's just an old man becoming pensive and going, I have some money, I have a voice, I'm sort of feeling regretful that I haven't used my voice for a more sort of positively political
Yeah, but you don't
stance.
know that though. Like you don't
But
know that's the real
what
reason.
I'm thinking, right?
Yeah.
You get older, you think. You have a lot of money and you think, and you have some avenue to do this, and you've wanted to make this film for ages. In some regard, I'd be really interested to see how Megalopolis has changed over the 4 years.
I would imagine that whole conversation about the future would only have been a recently added concept, because
Since
initially
of
it
all
was
the-
supposed to be about just the Catalarian conspiracy or something, I think it's called, which was a real murder thing or something that happened in ancient Rome, and he just wanted to put that in modern day New York City
Gotcha.
and write a simple drama, I think it was,
Which would have been pretty cool.
and
that
it
sounds.
developed into
this.
and that's why it feels so disjointed, because it feels like he's got a massive scrapbook with 40 years worth of ideas, and he adapted the whole book.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so there's so many different plot lines. That was the big thing. Is so much shit happens, and I was like, what the
And
fuck?
it totally
There was
has
that
no
asteroid that fell
Yeah.
into the city.
The movie has the movie has no interest in being coherent, and that's why it's like we were discussing this in the car.
Yeah.
Like it's a movie that will probably never be made again,
No.
and I think that's why it's so interesting, is because it's such a strange movie from every aspect. But again, the question you got to ask is it doing anything that is actually valuable or interesting? And
Not
I think-
particularly.
I would
I
say
don't
the
know,
only
like,
thing.
I'm not sold either way.
The
I
only
don't really
thing
know.
that I take away of value is to have the confidence in making the art that you want to make. I respect the fact that he made
Sure,
it.
but when
You
you're
know.
that
But it-
well
yeah.
established, is it really confidence, or is it?
But that's something that it could be interesting to mention, is you could look at someone like his peers. Let's look at Scorsese. I mean, Scorsese's still making movies today as well, like Coppola. And I think Scorsese is just becoming even better as a filmmaker. I mean, like his masterpieces are from the 70s, 80s, and 90s. And
Yeah,
you'll never
but-
top him, because that's just when he became a legend. But his last couple of films, Irishman and Killers of the Flower Moon, are long epics, only could be made by a master filmmaker. But they're still, A, very coherent, but B, reminiscent of his long-term style.
Yeah.
Whereas Megalopolis is
That's
completely...
that's a very good point.
Completely not... Like, if you were trying to call Coppola an auteur,
Yeah.
this doesn't even feel like a Coppola movie.
Yeah.
But you could watch Godfather and Apocalypse Now and all that other crap or whatever, and you would know it's a Coppola movie,
Yeah.
which is very interesting.
It is. It's 13 years since his last film.
Really? What was his last movie?
Twixt.
Twixt.
A horror,
The fuck?
which I've never heard of.
Probably absolute
Written,
garbage.
directed, and produced.
The other problem, low-key, with this movie is I don't think it's even possible to get everything out of it. There's just so
You'd have to
goddamn
watch it
much.
so many
But this
times.
is... But,
Yeah.
but this
and
was
have so many
interesting.
conversations.
And I think Barry...
Oh, he wanted you to have conversations,
yeah.
man.
I think Barry will agree, though. I kind of liked it.
I did too.
Yeah.
Which is
I
what's-
enjoyed it a lot.
I really-
bought into
yeah.
it totally while it was happening.
Yeah. But...
It was like
It's a weird thing, because I did kind of like it, and I definitely feel more positively about it than negatively. But technically,
I think
it is a terrible movie. Like, in terms of the, the structure of what you want to call it,
Yeah.
of cinema, the requirements of cinema.
it
It's
failed.
fucked,
If this
you
was
know.
if this was an assignment, like if you handed this in, they
Yeah.
would say,
They would fail you.
are you okay mentally?
They wouldn't even think ChatGPT wrote it. So they'd be
Yeah.
like, "There's no way ChatGPT would come up with
this.
Come up with something like this."
Dude, they have Grace Vanderwall in it, which is such a
Dude.
random casting.
I was
and
so
such a Daniel Larson.
Daniel Larson lore goes so heavy, bro.
like-
Do you know who Daniel Larson is?
no.
He's like
Imagine
this-
Daniel Larson was in this movie.
Oh, I would have.
That would have been amazing.
I would have loved the film.
I think he was in jail by that
Yeah,
point.
he's-
I don't know
Who
when
the
they were
hell's
filming
Daniel-
It's like this Instagram homeless.
Daniel Larson,
man.
he's as he says, he's a famous singer-songwriter, currently homeless, but now he's in a mental asylum.
Nice.
And he was convinced that Grace Vanderwall, the girl that they
When
alleged,
she was like 14.
what,
When she was like a child, he was convinced that he was dating
gonna marry her and
Yeah.
stuff. But so you know how she has like the alleged sex tape with Adam Driver?
Yeah.
That,
yeah. Was that the actress?
yeah.
Grace Vanderwall.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so Claudio, is that his name?
Claudio is...
Shia LaBeouf.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So he's the one that doctors that and fakes it.
Yeah.
Yeah. So Daniel Larson, this influencer, crazy dude. Was
Yeah.
like, yeah,
He would
he was
bro, he would have been so
marrying
upset if he saw this movie.
Grace Vanderwall.
He'd
Yeah.
be pissed.
I mean,
bro.
there was so much. There was
funny-
so much in it that was like so bad, and which is so interesting. Like, I remember there's a point where they talk about how Dustin Hoffman. Remember his character?
You mean John Voight?
No. So Dustin Hoffman was that old guy who was friends with. I think he was friends with the mayor. He was only in it for a bit. He was in it at the start, but later on, you see that Shia LaBeouf is like standing next to his statue because some time has
Oh, yeah,
passed
he
and
is.
he's
Yeah.
died.
Yeah.
And they go, "Oh well, something happened to him. Like he was assassinated." And it cuts to this scene where he's standing there. Fuck! I've just hit the mic. He's standing there, and a bunch of pillars and concrete is falling down on him, and he just starts screaming.
Oh yes, that's right. Yeah.
And it just crushes him.
Yeah.
Like I just burst out laughing. Like what the fuck?
This is the thing though, like, what is about
Does
the
not take
movie
its-
that makes it so enjoyable for you and I? I don't know what. I couldn't say why I bought into
I,
it.
I think it's because it's like
That's actually. Let's try and work this out. Why did I like it?
Well,
this is for
what
me was
I'm-
the first thing I immediately bought into it.
well, what I'm thinking is it's unintentionally funny.
I think it's totally intentional.
You think?
Some of it is unintentional.
But I think
Okay,
like,
yeah, some of it, but I think the movie's trying to be funny.
okay, but
that Adam Driver go back to the club is intentionally
But, like,
funny. Like that is clearly
the
a joke.
problem I have with it is if I
And the way
wasn't.
Shia LaBeouf delivers his lines has to be jokes.
Just Shia LaBeouf existing in the movie. Just every time he looked at the screen, I was like,
I wanted a lot more than
Well,
what
this
we got,
is
right?
what I say though. Oh, I guess you go.
And so I've gone in with incredibly. You guys have clearly had lower expectations.
I knew nothing about the movie.
I went in with purposely low expectations.
Well, yeah, and
I hadn't
neither
thought
did
about the movie
I just went
once.
in with like, this is going to be a good film. It's going to be, something new. It's going to be something different
Yeah.
in a positive way. And it's made by one of my favorite directors who's directed my favorite film.
Yep.
And I haven't really enjoyed a movie as much as I would have liked to this year besides June.
Yeah.
This is what I've been
And The
looking
Substance.
forward to all year. Well, yeah, The Substance and Kinds of Kindness, etc.
Yeah. But June's only the
Not to the
masterpiece.
not to the extent that I have in
Yep.
recent years. I was looking forward to something
Yep.
breathtaking.
Yep.
And so the weight of my expectations being crushed has just sucked any sort of enjoyment and I could have got out of the film, which has left the scenes that could have been funny or intentionally or unintentionally with just like a
Yeah.
Dude,
fucking what a load of shit. What a joke.
And it was a little
joke.
frustrating for me, and I mentioned it to Barry later, and this is not a criticism of you because you can do whatever you want, but there were certain times in the movie where whenever you don't like something, it's
also like you're an hour 50 into the film and you're not enjoying
You know?
it.
Yeah,
So you've got
it's
another
like-
half
and-
hour left. You're like,
I didn't know what I can't read Bowie, he's a sphinx. But I was sitting there and I at least was going, I'm actually like kind of into this. But then every time there would be a scene, I was like, that's like, what's going to happen? I was like, oh, for fuck's sake. Like,
Wait, I remember you asked me at one point if I was liking it. I didn't know how to answer because I didn't want to.
I turned to Bowie and I said, I cannot tell if you are actually enjoying this or if
you
you
hate
think
it.
this is a piece of shit.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like, I can't actually tell.
yeah.
And when we got out, I said I think Bowie said to me on the car
was
ride
like,
home,
I
he goes,
kinda
oh,
liked
bro,
it."
Marlon, like, he kept signing shit and it was taking me out of it because I was having fun. And
Yeah.
like, you know.
Oh, sorry, guys.
Oh, that's
But
weird.
no,
I
but-
mean, I slide in Joker. I don't know if you caught that. I caught myself doing it at the end. I'm like,
yeah, you
oh.
took me out of Joker. I would
was
have
like-
loved the film
I was
if
like,
you didn't
oh,
fucking sigh.
Oh, damn it, I sighed in Joker. Damn it, guys.
Well, I think straight up like my senses were going on Joker. I think I was sitting there.
Yeah, it wasn't even like a sigh
doing
of
what
like,
was
it was a
going
sigh of just
It's
a
like
deep
when
breath.
they've just got like the fucking bracket on your head and they're slowly turning it in and getting
Yeah.
the fucking
crushing
screw
it.
in. Yeah, they're fucking starting the lobotomy.
No, but yeah.
Why did we like
This
it?
is what I wanted to say is,
Yeah.
I mean, I had zero expectations. I hadn't thought about the movie at all. Beyond
Yeah.
like you guys saying we're going to watch Megalopolis. I'm like, okay, whatever.
Yeah.
But the very first scene, I bought into it immediately. Like it comes up.
Oh, him
like,
on the building.
But even before that, it has like the text, and it's like just. I'm like, this is so goofy. This is gonna be sick.
Yeah.
It was goofy in a totally serious way, and there's
Yeah.
something about that I don't know. Immediately, I loved
there was
the
somehow
style.
there was somehow a sense of realism to it.
Yeah, it was totally committed to seriousness and treating this as if it was totally coherent without ever committing to being coherent. It was
Yeah.
this weird tension.
It somehow, yeah,
It was such a
somehow,
bizarre thing.
somehow it was following its own rules, and somehow I was able to buy into
That
it.
is also what I loved. I love when like it's the same thing with Lynch and whatever else movies that they don't really make sense in the normal world,
On paper,
but they
yeah.
strictly commit to their rules and therefore you can buy into the world.
Yeah.
And that's what I loved about it. And I mean, I just generally do find books and movies as well that play with style and sort of are very bizarre and goofy. I really enjoy that.
Yes.
So maybe that's also why, like, I just immediately was like, this is sick.
Yes, agreed. I mean, and I think the fact that there were, what was it? The one of the main things I think I said to you was, I actually was really loving the world, and I was interested in it and being a part of it. And I thought that even though there was not a lot of sort of subtext and background information given to you, you know, and it should have done a little bit, I still found the world really engaging. I thought he managed to create a coherent, believable backdrop to the movie, even though there should have been more detail. Absolutely. Like,
I think the movie could be better for sure.
Like the Megalon stuff, like that, and all this sort of aspects and details needed to be explained.
I just don't think he cared. That's why.
No, he didn't give a
It wasn't
fuck.
why he made the movie.
So you know how the movie has like the postlude sort of weird vibe with the like the meteor at
After
the
the
end?
meteor, yeah.
Yeah. I think I would have liked the film a fair bit more if it didn't drag on that extra 20 minutes with...
Well, this is the other problem I have with the movie, and it's sort of ironic because it's kind of why the movie exists, is all the didactic, just like telling you what you should believe stuff, where like they're just quoting like the Marcus Aurelius like back-to-back quotes. Like it's like...
Yeah, that was some of that.
Or
Some
like
of her, that chick, Natalie Emmanuel from Game of Thrones.
Game of Thrones, yeah.
Who was great in Game of Thrones, but some of her line delivery was so bad. Like,
But even like...
and for some reason they kept giving her repetition, and I didn't understand why, because there was that conversation where he goes, "Go back to the club," and she goes, "Entitles me." Like she said it 3 times.
But I think
bro.
it's
And I was
totally...
like,
it's
the fuck.
That's so intentionally campy.
But main thing is, yeah, she's fucking quoting Marcus Aurelius to Gus Fring, and she keeps saying Marcus Aurelius quotes, but then would say, you know, fascism of the soul, Marcus Aurelius.
Well, that was,
something, Marcus Aurelius. And I was like, bro, we know you're fucking quoting Marcus Aurelius. You don't need to keep saying
that was one
it.
thing that really pissed me off at the end of the movie is when Caesar's up on his like thing and he's talking to the people and he's like, time, consciousness, and something else. And then he says the most bizarre, nonsensical statement. It's like, what the hell does that mean? Why is that there? And it's like, that's one of the things I hate is when art tries to do philosophy. The point of art is it's expressing something that cannot be expressed in philosophy or science. That's why we need art. So don't try to do something you're not, like it just doesn't make sense to do it. Obviously art expresses ideas, but it's not like, it's not expressing philosophical ideas. It's expressing like other ideas that cannot be described.
But how do you feel about, because there's this thing that I was reading the other day where I think it was Nietzsche said that Dostoevsky is the only philosopher from whom I've ever learned anything.
I think is the quote psychologist or philosopher?
No, philosopher.
It is philosopher?
It's philosopher. And because the argument that was made was that because Dostoevsky, at least psychological, but also some philosophical questions, maybe in Crime and Punishment, he was addressing, but he was able to address them in such a deep way because he was telling a fictional story.
Yeah.
He wasn't constrained to reality like philosophers are, because they have to base it in some sense of realism.
That is true. Like you can
then
do
you could apply it to this
philosophy. You
movie.
can do philosophy whilst also doing art, but I think you're still. I don't think it's like for example, if you do a dialogue, which is what Plato would do. It's still a very different thing to just pure art. The way it is expressing it is different. Like a movie like Megalopolis has no business telling you like starting to do philosophical analysis. Yeah. The way that they end up expressing these philosophical ideas is not through analysis. It's through like a sort of sensical expression.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Or a sensuous expression. So like, when Dostoevsky is like if Nietzsche says he's a great philosopher, it's not because he's sitting there, doing deductions of this leads to that. It's because he's sitting there expressing how people feel and how they think and stuff through the power of narrative, and that is why art is powerful. So for him to start just going time, consciousness, blah 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 blah, it's so pointless and it doesn't help anyone.
It's that whole to strip it down. It's the whole idea of show don't tell.
Exactly.
Where And if you apply it to Dostoevsky, who was someone who was intelligent, and he would just tell an intelligent story with those themes in it, but never in like Crime and Punishment does he go, murder's bad. You shouldn't kill people.
How does he express the...
know?
So that's a great example.
But you read that, you get to that conclusion.
Do you care if we spoil Crime and Punishment? Because it's such a great example of what I want to say.
Go for it.
I'm sorry. His character, what's his name again?
Raskolnikov.
Right? His has this whole idea where he thinks, I'm one of these great individuals in history. I can do whatever the fuck I want. The rules don't apply to me. And so he goes, kills this old lady. And then he has this terrible psychological breakdown because he realizes, I'm not one of these great people in history. Does Dostoevsky sit there and go, what's his name?
Raskolnikov.
Is not one of the great guys in history. This is a terrible idea. This doesn't work. No, he writes a story that expresses how that makes you feel. Megalopolis doesn't do that, unfortunately.
I'm just I'm sitting here disappointed because my favorite scene in the film is when Crassus shoots.
Oh, that was great.
Shia LaBeouf and all.
How do you like? What does he say? How do you like my? His fucking. He has like an erection, right? Like he's holding up the boat.
Yeah.
Hold on. I have to say this.
Dick in the movie.
So the best scene in the movie was the sex scene. It was
that was funny.
The funniest. And Shia LaBeouf is just, he deserves every award possible. Like fuck.
I'm so disappointed by the fact that just that scene is my favorite part of the film because that scene is fucking hilarious.
It's definitely one of the most memorable moments. Yeah.
But it doesn't serve any real purpose or point.
I think perhaps maybe Bowie, or at least more for you, the reason why you may have liked it is I think it's kind of like, in concept, it's a movie that was perhaps something that you would love, but just in execution, it didn't execute it in an intelligent way. I think it had really sophisticated goals, and I think the reason why perhaps you were enjoying it is because it's dealing with a lot of shit that you have a great interest in, but it's just not presented in a particularly A, coherent, B, subtle or intelligent way.
Well, actually, yeah, I mean, I just realized then the whole idea of like conversation being really important is like a very like fair idea. And there is a philosopher named Rorty who is big, obviously he has a lot more to it than just, guys, we need to talk to each other. But it is an interesting idea, and it's sad to me that he does it the way he does. But yeah, and that for me is what I feel about this movie. My favorite parts of this movie is when it's not trying to be this, intellectual, blah, 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 blah. And it's just a movie that just has this very basic idea. I think the world is going wrong. We need hope in the world. We need to do this and be better. And then it just decides, I also find that what happened in Rome really interesting. I think it's kind of similar to what's happening today. Let me just make this a really interesting thing and do whatever the hell I want because I can. I think that's amazing. I thought that was the fun part of the movie, but it's just when characters start just saying shit that's nonsensical and it's like,
I think it's just a simple, unfortunate thing that its ambition was far greater than like the sum of its parts,
Yeah.
And if you, again, like to use, what would you say? To use Dostoevsky as an example, I'm not going to spoil anything, but I read a great article which was explaining why his books are effective, especially Crime and Punishment, because I was saying, I don't know if I was saying it to you, but I was saying to my family when I finished reading it, that it actually made me consider going back to Christianity. And that's because in the book, and this is why Dostoevsky was such an intellectual, is when people argue in the streets, for example, if we're debating about what we should do, people create straw men out of your arguments. They just make a caricature of it and make it seem way dumber than it actually might be. It might be more sophisticated. But what Dostoevsky does in his novels is, like, he was a Catholic and Raskolnikov was an atheist. And so what he does in the book is he makes atheism as intelligent and as appealing as possible and then tries to take it down.
Yeah, which is
So that's why you can completely buy into conclusions that he makes, because he's not tried to reject it. He's actually done his very best. His very best to make it as sophisticated as he can, and then challenge it. And that's why it's interesting, and when you get to the ending, the catharsis is like, oh wow, he's actually right about this, because the whole time you might be going, yeah, I mean, atheism, yeah, you know. In Megalopolis, there's tons of shit that it's discussing, and some of those ideas are actually really fascinating and really grand in their scope, but I don't want to say they make a straw man, but they just don't put any effort into actually
they're
building
definitely
up.
oversimplified.
They don't build up any of their arguments. There's no substance to anything that they're saying. There's just stuff.
Well, that's what was also really sad, right? Because if he's been thinking about this for 40 years, and he hasn't had any development in the complexity of the thoughts, just had more of them. I mean, what kind of thinking is that? You're not interrogating your thoughts. You just.
But some of it clearly just reads like they're just thoughts that he had. Like, you know that scene where Adam Driver's driving along and the statues come to life?
Yeah.
Cool scene.
That was pretty cool.
It was fucking cool. And I was
But,
like,
why?
that looked cool, but why?
Yeah.
And then it never gets brought up again. It's just something that happens. And you're like, oh, okay.
Yeah.
Or like his dead wife.
I would like to rewatch.
Remember the dead wife thing?
Well, yeah, and he goes and
Yeah, the
visits
dead
the
wife.
tomb thing.
But then she's still but he's visiting a ghost. And then
But it's not real, but it is real.
but then we never see that again. Or he gets shot in the face.
Well, that's just there to show that he didn't actually kill her.
Remember he got shot in the face just for it to actually not mean anything? Like
Oh,
they
well,
just,
because he had the Megalon. Don't worry, the Megalon fixes everything.
What does
No, I know.
Megalon... What? Okay, because obviously Megalon, I'm 100% sure is just supposed to be representative of something.
no.
Coppola-
what the
Coppola
fuck could
fixes
it
all.
represent? There's no material even close to.
But I don't think it's representing a material.
Netherite.
It's got to be representing something abstract.
Conversation,
Like,
the people's conversation.
yeah, there's got to be
The-
something retarded like that.
Yeah, like the result.
I don't
of
think that's true.
the
I think it
result
is.
of
I just think it's a.
No,
I just
it's
think
an idea he had.
it's a gimmick. It's a gimmick.
Maybe.
What? You can't be saying that Coppola's sitting there smoking a doobie, going, Megalon
Actually-
rebuilds buildings.
There's a really funny
if
comment.
people's conversations, they could rebuild buildings.
There's a really
In some sense, they
There's a
do.
really funny post of his. So it's like, ask me anything. The main point of Megalopolis was to spark a conversation and advance the art of cinema. And as a question, it's just like sativa or indica, Coppola, which are the two main common
Yeah,
strains
two
of
main.
marijuana.
Yeah.
And he goes, neither. I can't smoke anymore because it makes me eat too much. In my heyday, I used to beer, and said one of the two strains, which I found very amusing.
Coppola.
Go.
He's having a good conversation about marijuana.
he's-
Nobody cares about your movie. Tell us more about The Godfather.
But
Let's get high and watch The Godfather.
But no, Megalon is certainly something that's supposed to represent an abstract idea.
But then
I'm
again,
certain of it.
Now that Nick says that, I wouldn't be surprised if it was just an idea he had, because there's other examples of just
Yeah.
ideas he had.
Yeah.
But to me, it feels like it has to.
To me, it felt like just a MacGuffin. It just felt like he had to have something to explain, because otherwise he would be fucking Superman. He would have superpowers.
Well, he does though, because at the end of the movie,
No, I know, but he has it because
end of
he's
the
made
mo-
this
at
discovery,
the end
not
of the
because
movie,
it's
the
fucking.
baby stops time.
True.
The baby stops because you know what that represents.
Yeah, but that is just some bullshit fourth wall breaking metaphor.
But no, but it's supposed exactly though. But I think that the stopping time is supposed to represent like something to do with the people, these visionaries in the future who are able to stop time, see what it is, what it is, and then push us forward. And I think the idea at the end of the movie is this baby is even more powerful than Caesar, and he can stop Caesar in time. And this baby represents the future society, and that's going to push us
And
forward.
the development of society after conversation.
And well, that's the other point I think as well is probably by the allusion to Rome and so on, is that even Caesar's new utopia will collapse and it will have to be renewed. So, I don't know.
Like, yeah.
And hence why Megalon changes and moves around.
Yeah, and some sort of...
It is definitely something I want to watch again.
Yeah.
I mean,
I do
I
wanna
am
see it
I
again.
am intrigued to see. Like, I'll wait for it to come out on Netflix or something. But
Maybe, you know what, it would be a fun project, would be to re-edit it and see if you can,
God,
like...
that'd be such a pain in the
It'd be
ass.
so hard. But
I
see
feel
if you
bad
can-
for his editor, bro.
Well,
That person
I
must
like-
have like insomnia.
I
Holy
set
fuck.
out to try and rewatch it before the podcast because we would have
Yeah.
seen it, 3 weeks ago?
Yeah, it was a while ago.
Yeah, it was
At
a
this
while.
point, something like that. And I just ended up, your life got in the way. But I did want to see it again to sort of give it that second chance. Because, hey, perhaps after realizing it's not as great as I wanted it to be, then I could go on with that sort of
Sorry.
lack of expectation and then just see it for what it is. Didn't get the chance. I imagine I'll like it more on a rewatch, but I don't know if I'll like it enough to like it,
Yeah.
if you pick up what I'm putting down.
Yeah. Oh, man.
But
But there was so much in it. And again, it's like a positive and a negative because I feel like you could watch it 5 times and discover new different things that it's talking about.
I mean,
but
there's
also,
so much we haven't discussed.
but
like,
it's
I could think
so
of discussing.
it's so convoluted. Like it
Yes.
is. So it's almost like with this movie, everything that you could say about it is bad is also what makes it good.
Yeah.
You know, I would actually say that's what it is. And like someone had this review on Letterboxd. I think they said something like, "This is somehow the most beautiful and the ugliest movie ever made." And I actually think that's a good way to
Yeah,
characterize it.
it looks shit, but it looks so good.
Yeah, I was like, "Wow, this is fucking great," and it looks fucking terrible. Like, especially some of those, God, when he was like tripping balls at that party.
Yeah.
You know, and
I
there was all
love
that,
that.
there was all
so
that
much-
spinning shit coming out.
That was a lot of
from
fun,
him.
though. I
God,
like
it was
that.
fucking weird. I was like, wow, this is crazy.
And the editing was so dumb, but it was so awesome. That's this movie. It was so dumb, but it was so awesome.
I think
Yeah.
my expectations are what killed it
Yeah,
for sure.
yeah. And I think for some reason, and I don't know why, but I'm just for me personally, I feel like I'm really good at getting into the flow of a movie. Like even if the pacing is kind of bad, because I do think the pacing in Megalopolis is kind of bad, but I'm just very good at getting relaxed, getting into the zone of the movie, and just going along with the ride. Unless the movie is unbelievably trash, like I saw the TV Glow. But if it's, you know, if I can get into it and I just kind of get swept away,
Like
even
coast,
if it's not great,
Yeah.
you know, Joker I didn't just because it was boring. Like what I was watching wasn't interesting me. Megalopolis was interesting me, even though I thought it was kind of slow and then quick and then slow and then, you know. So it didn't bother me, but it is still,
Dude, it
you know.
it just felt like being told I was going on holidays for like the trip to get cancelled at the last minute. Sort of vibe for me. You know, build up anticipation. You've been to that holiday place before, you love it, all that sort of shit, and then
For me, it was just like a surprise like trip out.
Surprise
to, like,
bender.
Yeah,
Surprise
That's
bender.
legit, yeah, that's what it felt like. I was like, oh, okay,
Yeah.
guys, let's go. One last thing maybe I want to say is I believe Caesar and Cicero in actual Rome had a very similar relationship to the movie, where they had sort of to make certain alliances, even though they were never friends, and
Right.
and I think something to do with like Caesar may have pardoned, or not pardoned, but whatever, something to Cicero. So there is probably something important there as well, but I don't know enough to get into it. So I'll leave it at that. Let the viewers, if they find it interesting, research
Nice.
it.
the viewers, the 3 viewers.
Yeah.
We have tons of followers, don't even lie.
We are big time.
Big time.
Actually, Francis Ford Coppola called me. He was like, "Let me know it's out. I'm watching it."
Dude, I'm not even joking. I reckon if I DM him with a link to the podcast, he'll probably watch it. It's actually crazy. Like,
Oh my god,
he-
guys, you sparked a conversation.
he responds to everyone on his Instagram.
Does
It's
he really?
fucking weird. And like I mean, the main thing is that if you are
loves
not
conversation,
if
dude.
you
I'll
like,
tell you, he just
if you
wants-
like him, he will like, dude. Like will go and find people with 13 followers who make some sort of Megalopolis art, and it'll be liked by Francis Ford Coppola,
Nice.
and two others. Like that's
He
it.
just has a sweatshop of like Bangladeshi children working on his Instagram at all times.
He's got like he's a hive mind, dude.
Bruh. I reckon I might tag him. Tag him.
Yeah, I'll tag him. I'll
Tag him for sure.
tag him.
He probably will
tag
actually
him.
see it.
He'll like fast forward every time I speak and just listen to your 2 conversations.
Ah.
Bro, he'll
really
he'll lose his shit when he realizes that in the span of this conversation we've mentioned Nietzsche and Dostoevsky. He'll be like,
Oh, that reminded me.
I'm in that. I am in the conversation
the
with Nietzsche.
one other thing that I don't know why Rousseau comes up. I mentioned this while we were watching. I don't know.
Oh,
if
yeah.
Rousseau comes up in every single one of these types of movies. There's always some guy going, Rousseau. And then they mention like the savage and how society has made us corrupt and worse, and how our natural better state is being before like culture and stuff. And it's like the noble savage is the phrase. It's like,
Yeah.
why does that come up in so many movies? It's such a weird thing that, I mean, obviously it's a popular, like,
Well, everybody has that thought.
It's probably accessible philosophy for someone who wants to try and be intellectual.
I guess, but it's just interesting because it's in a Tarkovsky movie. It's in this. It's in a.
Well, Tarkovsky can get away with it. He can do
Well,
it.
the thing is, in Tarkovsky,
He
it's
gets
just,
free pass. He can
but
do whatever
the
he
thing
wants.
is, though, Rousseau's always just a throwaway line. It's like, yeah, I've read Rousseau.
What one was that? Was that Nostalgia that was Rousseau? Which one was it?
What was the
The
one?
Sacrifice?
No,
No. Was it
Mirror?
Solaris?
it might have been. No, it was Mirror. I believe it was Mirror.
Dostoevsky was in The Sacrifice. I remember that.
And Dostoevsky was also in Mirror.
But again, that makes sense because he's Russian.
yeah. Yeah.
Rousseau is just some degenerate from like France, I believe. Bro, Rousseau. This is actually a hilarious story where Rousseau was friends with another philosopher, David Hume, who was a British philosopher, or Scottish. Big distinction there, I guess. And then Rousseau started to get like paranoid that Hume was like trying to like turn everyone against him or some shit. He might have just been a schizophrenic freak. Nah, he wasn't really.
Like
but anyway.
all philosophers.
Well, nah.
Anyway, so he's...
Anyway, so he just went, like, got angry at Hume or some shit and like freaked out.
How's that a fucking funny
He
story?
crashed out, bro.
I thought that was going to like
That's
go
a one
somewhere.
sentence summary. That's
Well.
like a news headline. That's not,
Rousseau
that's not a story.
It's just that just the fact that Rousseau was the type of guy to crash out, thinking like his friend was like turning everyone against him.
The better story is talking about how
Maybe his whole...
Nietzsche fell in love with his horse. That's a way better story.
Yeah, but I don't know if that's true. That story though.
I reckon it's true. I could see that.
Anyway, I don't have much more to say about Megalopolis.
Dude, I'm just like in the corner of the cinema going, the horror.
Yeah.
The horror.
Saigon. That's what I do. Anytime we're in summer in Australia and I wake up, I'm still in Saigon.
Shit.
Oh my God.
No,
it's like 6 in the morning, covered in sweat.
You two are like Martin Sheen, you've just gone on this journey, and I'm just Brando going, the horror. The horror. And I'm like overly fat
Yeah,
because I have
me and Bowie are coming out of the
coming
Billabong with mud on our face. Just,
yeah. Like real fucking engaged, and I'm just like...
On that note, do you want to move on?
I'm happy to.
All right, ratings.
You go first, Bowie.
I'm gonna give it a 7.
7. Okay. Wow. Yeah. Nice.
I'm at a 4.
It's definitely not a 7. I think probably maybe a 6.
Yeah.
I'll give it a 6.
Because like with talking about it, I can definitely... I do think I'd enjoy it on a rewatch. I'd enjoy it because I don't have expectations to it anymore.
Yeah.
They've floated away.
Yeah.
I'd enjoy it for what it is.
And I
in,
think
like,
you
some
also,
sort of-
A, it's convoluted, B, it's going to be slow.
Yeah, and I'm going to be
So
able to...
you have the exact right frame of mind to go in,
And I'll just get
But I'm
3 chalk tops instead of 1.
Exactly. But I definitely want to watch it again.
Yeah.
I think maybe next year we'll sit down. Imagine Europe, bro. Amsterdam, Megalopolis screening in Amsterdam.
Imagine Ford Coppola was there with us.
Rocks up.
Bro, the 4 of us just talking about our favourite strands. Just watching Megalopolis. Nice. All right, well, Marlon, you had a pick for Halloween.
I did, and it was not really a horror, but it was close enough.
It was a horror.
Yeah.
It was horror-esque.
Horror-esque.
Yeah, it was a bit of like...
It's kind of like Infinity Pool. It was like a psychological horror.
Yeah, psychological thriller horror.
Yeah.
Took me on a journey.
Yeah.
Not really, but it was fun. I liked it.
It's
Anyway,
interesting for sure.
Altered States, directed by Ken Russell,
Yep.
essentially is about this psychology professor who's really young. He's
Yeah.
like supposed to be like a genius, essentially, called Ed or Ned. I can't remember what they actually call him. His name's Edward.
Eddie.
Eddie, there you go. And so essentially he starts just doing all these experiments in deprivation tanks, sort of like, what is it, trying to release the mind or go to this sort of...
Yeah, it's like sensory deprivation. So
and he's trying to bring it back to the first state.
Oh no, that's his theory. He has is that these sensory deprivation experiences are like this hallucinogenic experience that this Mexican tribe has, and it's basically you going back to the primordial consciousness or something.
Yeah, so like an ape.
Some ridiculous stuff.
And anyway, and so he goes and tests his theory, I suppose. He travels to Mexico and he does a bunch of mushroom drugs in a drink. And he goes on this awesome trip, which visually looks insane. It's like some sort of montage, like psychedelic trip, essentially. And it's fucking awesome.
It's kind of like fucking Megalopolis.
And
I'm
it's
not gonna lie.
super disturbing when it like cuts back to reality and there's the Mexican face paint sort of shit. Reminds me of The Northman.
Yeah.
If you've seen it when they go into the Willem Dafoe's crawling around like a dog and shit.
Classic.
Funny scene.
I'm sorry, remember when he pulled out his cock?
Yeah.
I just knew we were in for a good movie. I was like, yeah, Willem Dafoe's a monster schlong. Just
And then
like straight
that
away.
guy is so prolific.
Yeah, it's
I'm
crazy.
surprised he wasn't in Megalopolis.
Dude, he's going to be in Nosferatu,
True.
bro. He's going to be in Nosferatu.
Yeah, it's gonna be so good.
So fucking good.
And
Anyway,
then-
go on, yeah.
And then anyway, he comes back from Mexico. Well, he leaves Mexico going, what the fuck? Those guys are like fucking nuts.
And he didn't remember the trip at all.
Well, yeah, and his friend's going like, you alright? Like, holy shit.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Meanwhile, everyone's like saying, don't do this shit, man. Stop doing this
The other
shit.
important detail is he killed their like lizard, like
yeah.
god, basically, who supposedly like gave them the mushrooms originally.
Yeah.
Anyway, yeah.
So he kills that. He comes back, and then he keeps doing this deprivation tank stuff to the displeasure of a senior scientist or psychology professor in the field.
One of his team members or whatever.
Yeah, who's like
Friends.
No, like the old man. The old man. It's like, you know.
Well, the old man discovered that the two of them were working on the experiment.
It's like, you got to stop this.
So he started to oversee it.
Yeah.
The larger dude, yeah.
and
But he's like his friend still. It's like a colleague, no?
Colleague, yeah. But like someone much more senior.
Yeah, sure.
And he's like, stop this shit, you know? You got to stop this. It's bad.
Well, he says, there's a great line where he says, like, you don't know the effects of this stuff. Why don't you just use, like, LSD or something? There's like a line, like a throwaway line, which
you
is
gotta,
like...
You got to use it on rats first
Because
as well.
I think a big theme of this movie is just critiquing the hippie, dippy, trippy culture
Because they
of the
say
60s.
that at the start. You know, no, we're not hippies. We don't just do drugs.
Yeah.
You know? And then by the end of it, he leaves the sensory deprivation tank an ape, and in a very American
after
werewolf
successive...
trips where he goes back to like the primordial state in the deprivation tank, and it goes on like this sort of American werewolf in London journey as an ape around. Is it New York? It's New York.
New York, yeah.
Yeah.
So, first thing, you guys are saying the movie has themes. I don't think it does. I honestly, like, I enjoyed it. I had fun. But I thought there was no consistent through line. And I definitely didn't think that it was somehow talking about, like, hippie culture. I thought it was so abstract and fucking bizarre. Like, hippies don't turn into fucking apes.
But that is exactly the point, is there was this gigantic hippie mysticism where they literally thought things like this. This was like a totally possible thing for them to think about. Like, this is being the consciousness. I can go back to primordial. These are real ideas.
Because
for example,
in the 60s, acid was just discovered, just synthesized and stuff.
And nobody knew what the fuck it was doing.
Things were limitless.
But for example, this movie is based on a book which was written based on a real neuroscientist, psychoanalyst, crazy like literally a weird ass dude, and he had truly bizarre ideas, which is why I actually think that this movie, I haven't read the book obviously, but I think it likely is a critique of that sort of hippie culture and how that they can justify their ideas by doing science. And I mean, I constantly kept saying to Marlon about how they're doing the EEG wrong.
Oh yeah, the electroencephalograph.
Yeah, they weren't doing
Said
it.
he moved, then the readings are wrong.
Like,
shit,
he's moving his muscles on his face and shit. Like,
he touches his face with his hand.
Yeah, the readings.
Experiment's over. It's fucked.
Yeah.
Because guys, Bowie's a pretty smart dude. He does like neuroscience and psych. He knows about the brain.
That doesn't really make me smile. It's just why I study. But yeah.
But he knows it.
Yeah. Anyway, the point is, I think that is certainly there in the movie, but I agree that the vast majority of the movie is just about, like, let's make some cool shit.
Yeah.
I agree for sure.
And they pull it off, man. Some of the shit is fucking
cool
awesome.
Yeah.
I think I said at some point, once he turned into an ape, I said, this was the last place I expected this movie to go, but I'm happy that we're here.
Yeah.
Yeah, I didn't expect him to turn into
it is.
As soon as he turned into a fucking monkey, I was like, this is great. I was actually having a good time. Like, that was probably when I was really starting to get interested in the movie, was when that happened, because it was like American Werewolf in London, which is something I really like. And like, this movie, I don't know. I don't think it ever took itself particularly seriously, but once he became a monkey, it became like no seriousness was.
Well, there's that line where the radiologist is like, the guy's like, oh, I think he's got some kind of like thing wrong, and the guy's like, this guy's a fucking gorilla. It's so funny, dude.
When he's looking at the
such a great line delivery.
Yeah.
But the thing I enjoy about it is, it has this sort of tension for the first half of the movie where they're experimenting with the drug and the deprivation state and what that can lead to, and then with the psychedelic trips coming in and out, there's some sort of tension in the unknown there, and then it turns into, like, it's a complete clash of styles, but then it turns into like a campy horror with this ape guy running around New York being really silly and funny, right? And because I don't think the start is well crafted in the sense of like some sort of sound cinematic experience, it is interesting and it has tension, and the psychedelic scenes themselves are enjoyable, but the dialogue is wanky and just sort of buzzwords all the time. It's a lot of faux pretentiousness sort of vibe.
It's a lot of like I read the literature and there's no.
Yeah.
It's like, okay, dude.
Yeah, it's like how I imagine the people I read at uni fucking jacking
When we
each
were
other
when we
off.
were watching, I had that exact reaction, like sort of like this is just sort of like a guy who pretends that he. But then the fact that it's a book, I imagine those lines were probably just ripped from the book because
Yeah.
books are obviously written with a very specific kind of dialogue. I imagine there was just a guy in the book speaking that way, and they're like, okay.
Uh-huh. And so I enjoyed the first part, though it wasn't sort of polished, okay? And then the second part becomes far less polished, far more unhinged, but campy. And I think it's not intentionally campy because, you know, it's 1980. How good is the costuming going to be? You know, how good is an ape man going to look?
I
All
liked
this
it. Yeah, I
stuff.
liked it.
I liked it. I don't think it's intentionally supposed to look pretty low tier. They had a fucking tiny budget.
Yeah.
Real tiny budget.
Is it a really good job with a lot
Yeah.
of those like when he turns into the primordial like soup stuff?
At the end?
Yeah.
Yeah, like the fuzzy, like see-through with him
Yeah.
and his wife. The thing I didn't like about this movie is the relationship drama that keeps floating in and out.
Well, I mean, the movie is also about love can conquer all.
But the problem
it's
is-
like the most
Yeah,
stereotypical.
we were sitting there. I think I said, "Oh, it's fucking Interstellar." Like the ending is
Yeah.
Interstellar.
The problem
It's the
is
cla- the
that
most-
sort of relationship storyline or plot through this film has no... serves no purpose.
Yeah.
Love-
Has no need.
Love even beats divorce, bro. Psh.
It
For real.
doesn't need to be there in the film
No.
at all. And it would have been better, way better, if it didn't have that.
Oh, you're a whiz kid too.
Yeah, let's fuck.
And
Essentially,
then when they're having sex, it's like this big mystical experience for him, which is so ridiculous.
yeah, and he's talking. He's like, he like has
mean,
to
how
stop,
could
and he starts talking about God. And
How could you imagine talking to that guy? You're
What a
having a
turn
normal
off, right?
conversation. Well, like just even as a dude, right? You're like sitting there and you're like, "What'd you have for breakfast?" He's like,
God.
I ate the primordial soup of my first consciousness. And you're like, dude, aren't you a scientist? What the hell are you talking
Dude, he
about?
would have been good friends with the guy who wrote on the Silver Globe.
Yeah,
The two of
no,
them would have been
honestly,
good
bro.
mates. They would have been
Well,
good friends.
that was another thing when he's like he comes out and he's like his mouth's bleeding and stuff.
Oh yeah.
And he's like, my visions are externalized. And the other psychologist dude is like, what the fuck are you talking about? That would literally be my reaction. Like, are you retarded, man?
Yeah.
And then he's like, says something like, you need to give me a pen and paper before I reconstitute. What do you mean? Like as in your ego reconstitutes? Is that what it is?
Yeah.
Like he becomes himself again?
I think that's the point. Is because he's in that primordial
I think
state.
it's his brain, yeah.
Yeah, because he's in that primordial
Reforming.
state.
To be
before
fair,
he goes back.
I do
to,
think it's very interesting that, like, not even that long ago, this
People
was
were
seen as a
thinking
totally
this.
viable thing for what consciousness could be.
Yeah, what 45 years ago,
I mean, yeah, that's
or however
even, like-
long before that the book was written.
yeah. Which to
So
me,
that's an interesting thing. Like, how would this movie have been received today? If a movie like with this
well,
sort of if this sort of
especially-
plot,
I
was
think it
made.
gets worse today because there's this rampant like scientism where anything that's not scientific even has a question that has nothing to do with science. People are like, no, that's not real.
Yeah.
Like that is a problem today. So if a movie like this came in, I think people would just be like,
The thing I think that works with this film as
Doesn't
well
make
is,
sense.
does this?
is on a low budget and sort of comes out of nowhere. The psychedelic scenes are perfectly
Oh, they're
edited.
great.
They are
They're so
actually,
sick.
but they're actually like sort of they're not groundbreaking, but they're really intense and well edited and well structured scenes.
And they do a good job of really getting that sort of chaotic feeling to the characters. Like he's like,
And I bet you going into a film like that in 1980, it's the last thing you're expecting.
I think that might be like a totally mind blowing experience.
Yeah,
actually,
right?
maybe not if it's like a bunch of hippies coming and singing. Then be like, yeah,
No, 2001 would have made like 15 years before that.
yeah, exactly. That is like the first real
Yeah.
grounding of that,
That
sort
is
of
something where
experience.
if you saw that in 1968, you'd be like, what
Fucking
the fuck?
yeah, Jesus.
Have you
I
ever
wonder what
watched
the-
a movie today where you've had that experience?
What do you mean?
Like a what the fuck? How is that? Like how have they just done that? That's like
Men?
so.
No, not men.
That was my what the fuck?
No, but like not like that though. Like an impressed
Like
sort of
how-
like.
Oh, like how do they pull that
Yeah.
off?
Not even just how they pull that off though. It's artistically so impressive too, not just technically. Like 2001 is artistically just mind blowing. So imagine watching that in theaters when it first came out. something that's sort of ahead of its time artistically as well, I guess.
On a certain level, I think when I watched Boy and the Heron, I probably had a bit of that.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, because the animation of Studio Ghibli is incredible, right?
But seeing something like that made today and seeing it like on the cinema as a first experience was pretty mind-blowing. I mean, in some ways, I had that reaction to June.
Dune Part 2 is a great example of that.
I think so. Not in the sense that I don't think anything it did blew me away, like, technically, because it already showed its potential with the first one, but just the ability to achieve the story beats and stuff.
I think to do it so consistently as well.
Yeah, like, for it to bring out the reactions that it had in me, especially, like, when Paul went into the room and he was like, I am Paul Wadib Atreides. I was sitting there going, what the fuck? You know, like, this is insane. I think, yeah. But I don't think it happens too much anymore. And that's the problem is, like, back then, like, when this movie was made, people were still figuring out, like, what cinema was.
There's still so much to be explored at this point.
I don't think cinema was really fully constituted until the 90s, where people, like, knew how to make movies. Like, from then, like, for pre-90s, everything was still experimented. By the 90s, everything more or less had been done. Like, blockbusters had been done, horrors had been done, psychological shit had been done.
Playing with the actual style.
Yeah, and then it just became, like, the way the director executes that particular type of story, you know. But before that, I mean, people were still figuring shit out. You just got to look at, like, the 70s. Like, you look at something like Taxi Driver, which was, for that time, a movie like that with the story and the sort of darkness that it had was, you know, never been seen before. You just keep going back. Go back to Metropolis, which we talked about last episode.
Well, yeah, that's what we didn't mention is that obviously Megalopolis before is...
Oh, inspired by Metropolis, 100%. Yeah, no doubt.
That's almost a gimme.
Almost, yeah. I mean, there were like actual scenes in Megalopolis that were like scenes in Metropolis. It was kind of crazy. And obviously they have basically the same title.
I just have another example of how this movie is supposed to be making fun of that sort of hippie culture is his portrayal of Buddhism as like...
Oh, yeah.
And it's totally about...
It's kind of like Mad Men.
He's totally like...
They talk about Buddhism and Mad Men.
He's totally butchering it and he's making it so much about the self and the ego, which is like the exact thing that Buddhism is trying to tell you.
Yeah.
The self is not real, blah, 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 blah. And so I think that is such a big deal because obviously the hippies got really into Eastern... religion and yeah.
Didn't they get into Taoism as well?
They got into everything. Basically what the hippies did, and this is where like the new age sort of like spirituality comes from, where it's just an amalgamation of totally incoherent ideas that make no sense together, but they just pretend they do. And I think that's definitely in this movie.
Well, because they basically want to just have a bunch of retarded actions and they justify them through different spiritual reasoning.
I just don't...
Well, Buddhism says that I'm allowed to take a dump on your chest. And then another... Taoism is like, I'm allowed to have multiple partners.
By shitting on your chest, I reduce suffering, so it's okay.
I'm not putting my waste back into the bowels of the earth, thank you.
Yeah, I don't know. And actually, what else is there to say about altered states? I'm trying to think of interesting things.
I don't think too much. There's a fair bit of religious symbolism.
See, for me, I don't know.
It doesn't really... I think it's almost anti-religious symbolism, but it doesn't really develop it much.
Yeah. So well, for me, like I don't think it's fair to characterize this as a simple, like, quote, horror movie. Because it definitely... was it not particularly scary, B, it wasn't really, like, a horror movie anyway. But... And I definitely think it does have more to look at than... Scream or something, I don't know. But I approached it like it was a horror movie, and so I was kind of watching it with my brain half turned off and was enjoying the ride, and I had fun, but once I watched it, I almost forgot everything about it.
See, the thing is, I think that's like the wrong approach, particularly even when you just look at a title, Altered States, it's talking about the brain. It's not just going to be, or the mind. It's not going to be some sort of stock
But every movie has a weird, like, Infinity Pool. You know, why would I look at that infinity pool and think X and Y? You know, I don't really think that's a
immediately
viable
makes
argument.
you go, wow, that's very interesting.
I don't think that's a viable argument to say you got to look at the title and
I
just
think
assume.
so.
But to be fair, Altered States, and you see the picture, I mean, it does kind of make you think there's going to be some sort of weird stuff going on here with this psychology.
Didn't for me. I was just like, okay.
Fair enough. I don't know, man. It is sort of funny to try and think about like a guy doing this today. Not the movie, like this, like an
experiment.
scientist.
I could definitely see some people in your philosophy class trying to do this.
Well, they wouldn't have the access to it because they're doing philosophy. They don't have equipment.
They'd fuck it up.
They wouldn't.
Fuck it up.
But I'm just trying to imagine because, like, for example, I'm taking a sensory neuroscience, or took a sensory neuroscience class this semester, I guess, and there's a large focus on consciousness, and it's just funny because the research methods obviously today are nothing like this because this is not a good research
No
method.
one's allowed to do shit like this. Even
But it's
if
also
they
just not a
wanted
good
to.
method. Like,
Yeah.
what the hell is this data? But imagine just one guy, because that's the other problem. It's one guy.
Yeah.
But imagine just one guy going,
Sample population 1.
screw the literature, guys. I've done hallucinogenics and it's just, it's insane. But imagine how much fun that would be to be this guy thinking you're discovering. And that's why I think this guy would do it. It's not like, oh, I'm really interested in discovering this stuff. It's totally just,
He's trying to self-fulfill his genius sort of tag.
yeah, I'm the genius and I'm
Yeah.
going to show everyone this totally different conception
And
of
it's-
the world.
And it's, well, I'm a genius and now I've done the bit that they call me a genius for and I can't really move forward, so I'm going to try and figure something else out.
And actually, there's a really goofy line at the end of the movie when they're like, the whole love conquers all thing. And his wife goes, "You made it real. You can make it unreal." Like, what?
Yeah. You knew it was going to happen like that, where he's like, "Oh, honey, you saved me." And he just turns into a monkey,
Yeah.
like that. No sense.
And then he's like, when he's banging, but how good is it when he's like banging the wall to try and like get back into his human form? I thought that was such
As
a
the-
nice scene.
the practical
TV
makeup,
static.
Yeah,
the
like switching
practical
between.
makeup of all the crap in his arm. I
Yeah.
thought it was really cool.
Everything, the movie's made well. For what it is,
particularly for how the little
Early
budget.
and how
I really
cheap it
respect
is.
the movie for what it is.
Yeah.
I think like it's not trying to be some crazy interesting movie. I imagine the director basically, picked up the book one day and was like, "Oh, this is really fun.
Yeah, this is dope. Let's make it.
I can totally make this," and he just did.
So actually, he made a film called Dante's Inferno
That could be interesting.
15 years prior. Interesting.
The Devils was an interesting movie.
Oh, you've seen The Devils?
Yeah, I've seen that.
Yeah,
It
so
was
that
interesting.
was his biggest film, right?
Yeah. It's like banned everywhere because it's, incredibly anti-Catholicism.
Nice.
Well, should we wrap it up?
Yeah.
I'm happy with that.
Yeah.
I'll kick us off. I'm going to give Altered States a 7.
A 7?
Yeah.
I think I'm gonna give it a 6.
There you go.
Yeah. 6, I think. Yeah.
Ah, fair
Excellent.
Pretty tight.
enough. All right then. Does that
Well,
mean we
so-
swiftly move on?
Swiftly move on to Barry's pick. Before we do that, we have to announce that we're going to be taking a small hiatus because,
Nothing new, really.
So about 2 weeks longer than normal.
yeah, that's all.
Yeah.
But the reason we're mentioning that is because we're not going to just say what cinema movies we're covering. Oh, we'll probably be doing Gladiator 2.
Yeah, Gladiator 2 will be one of them. We haven't
But I don't know
determined
what
the other.
one. But anyway,
Could be Anora.
maybe. Could be. Well,
When's it come out in Australia?
Christmas.
Oh, never mind then. Not Anora.
Anyway.
But we've got you.
We'll definitely be doing Gladiator
People
2.
are going away.
Yeah.
So a little bit of an extended break. But in that extended break, we'll be watching Isaac's pick, which is
I don't know if we've done Hitchcock yet, have we? Or have we done Hitchcock?
no Hitchcock.
All right, well then that makes this pick even better. North by Northwest.
Oof, good choice.
Yeah.
Bro, is that because it's about Don Draper?
No, that's not why I did it. But I was
Dude,
just
you totally looked that
no.
shit up.
Listen,
Oh, you dickhead.
listen.
It's about an advertising executive.
That's not
isn't
why.
it?
That's not why I picked it. That's not why I picked
With
it.
a dual identity.
It's 100. No, that's literally pure coincidence.
Bro,
Straight up pure coincidence.
what the fuck?
That's actually
He
pure
even
coincidence.
dresses like Don Draper.
No. 100% that's pure coincidence. I was looking for a Hitchcock movie,
This is bullshit.
or because I wanted to watch Hitchcock again.
Yeah.
It's been a while.
Not too long either. No.
And all the classics, Psycho, Vertigo, Rear Window,
We've all
The
seen
Birds.
Yeah, at least one
Rope.
of us has seen them.
They've all, and North by Northwest is the only major one that none of us have seen. So
That's an interesting
I think,
choice.
I think it is funny actually now that you mentioned the fact that it is literally just
Dude,
Don Draper.
The whole, I already know about this movie. I haven't seen it, but I know about it because, it's considered one of those.
Film school staples.
No, not at all. But if you just look up, if you like Mad Men,
Oh,
watch
gotcha.
this, and they give you a bunch of movies that are kind of like Mad Men, or at least like Don Draper, that could be sort of stand-ins for his character. And in the show, they mention like La Notte and Antonioni, Italian existentialist film, and then North by Northwest they mention a lot because it's basically like an episode of Mad Men that would never happen, which is about this advertising executive on the run because they think he's somebody else.
He's like a spy.
Yeah, funny as fuck.
I am excited for it.
That's a good
though.
choice. I like it.
Awesome.
Well, I thought this was a great episode. I had a lot of fun.
Yeah, it was good actually.
Yeah, some good chats. Hope you all enjoyed it. 20 episodes down.
Thank you for listening.
Yep.
So in the 6-week hiatus, if you're missing us, there are 19 other episodes you could watch.
That you probably haven't watched in entirety because we have analytics. We've checked it.
Yeah. Yep.
So, yeah, watch all those episodes. Go watch some movies. Have fun. And yeah, I mean, 20 episodes down. We're getting towards the end of the year, so you know the FAPS top 5 of the year will be coming soon. What we got?
Pretty thin list.
Would it be 2 more episodes before that list is done? Would we
Yeah.
do one in
Yeah,
November,
sure.
one in
Yeah.
December?
Yeah.
Yeah. All right. Well, yeah.
We're not going to stick around for Nosferatu 1st of January.
I mean, it could.
We'll have.
It sort of depends if we make that the December episode and just release it in January.
Maybe we'll figure it
Well,
out.
are we doing end of actual year or end of FAPS year?
Oh, it was the end of FAPS year, wasn't
No, the top 10 was the end of the year. Or the top 5 was the end of the year, but then we did that video, which was
Right,
the
which is end of FAPS year. is
end
the
of
video.
FAPS year, which
True.
is end of January. But,
it? Gotcha.
Right. Well, exciting things to look forward to, I suppose.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
On that note,
Thanks, guys.
See you guys later.
Cheers.